to the New Orleans Humanist Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people, living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow.
Today's episode of The Humanist Perspective. I'm Jim Dugan, your host for this episode. My guest this evening is Will Hunn, a longtime member of NOSHA and a native New Orleanian. He has a bachelor's degree in physics and has retired from the engineering department at the Avondale shipyard. He's been interested in board games for many years and is speaking to us this evening in his capacity as co-director of the New Orleans Backgammon Club. For people who may not be quite as familiar with what backgammon is, we have an image of a backgammon board. There it is. Backgammon is an ancient game played with dice and checkers on a board made up of two zones containing a total of 24 triangles. The objective is to be the first player to move all one's own checkers off the board according to rolls of the dice. But since a lone checker on a triangle is vulnerable to being sent back to the beginning, and the distribution of the checkers can affect the efficiency of getting checkers to the final destination, there's a large element of strategy in addition to the random chance of the dice. Welcome, Will, and I'm happy to talk with you about backgammon. I have to confess that I don't know very much about it. How does this compare to other board games, and why does it interest you in particular?
Well, I guess it fascinates me because of it's an amalgam of skill and luck. Unlike chess, which is purely based upon skill, and checkers, I guess it's that little probabilistic component to it that intrigues me. Way back in the 70s and 80s, when backgammon was really in its heyday, I was a chess player at the time. I was aware of backgammon. And in fact, at the old 4141 Club on St. Charles, which is now where New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Spirits restaurant is located, I can recall going there one evening. I guess it might have been in the early 80s, and I went upstairs and there were people playing backgammon, and the boards were inlaid in the tables, and I looked at them for a while. I had no idea what they were doing, and besides, I had a game, so I wasn't really interested in learning that. But I had a good friend who was very interested in backgammon, and he finally prevailed upon me to learn, and once I learned, I was hooked. Unfortunately, he moved away from town, but I found out that several of the people at Avondale shipyards played, and at lunchtime we played every day, and probably for 4 or 5 years, until eventually I moved to another part of the shipyard, and it was no longer convenient for me to play. And probably I didn't play a game for 13 or so years until November of 2007. I got a call from a gentleman named Mike Weinberger, who told me he was recently from New York, had moved down to the city, very interested in backgammon, and was interested in starting a club here in New Orleans. And he asked me if I'd like to get together with him. We could talk about it. So we did, and he told me that, Mike lived in the Marigny part of town, and it turns out a few blocks from his home, there's a little cafe called Flora's. And he had just happened upon it and spoke with the owner-manager, who turns out, by coincidence, to have been a backgammon player since childhood. He grew up in Iran, had learned it as a child, and he very graciously offered to use his coffee shop as a venue for our club. So immediately we had 3 players. We had the owner, Mike, and I, and we had a venue to play.
That's ancient history, I guess. Is that where you play now, or is it
It's still where we play. We've been playing ever since then, right? And of course, go ahead.
What is it that attracted you to the game? You had other things to do, and then somehow you got hooked on this.
On backgammon, it was a mind game. I was intrigued, like I said, with chess. I had played other board games as a child, Clue and Monopoly and those games, but chess, I liked it because of the challenge. It's a competitive game, more so than some of those other childhood type board games. And backgammon was different. Backgammon is quicker. A typical game of backgammon can last maybe only 10 minutes, where a game of chess can last for hours. A move in chess can take, the typical time controls for chess are 3 minutes per move, whereas backgammon, if you take more than 10 seconds to make a move, that's considered kind of a long move. Mm-hmm. So it was a quick game. You lose a game, set the board back up, you play another one. If you got really clobbered in that game, no big deal. You set it right back up and you're off to another one. In chess, don't get me wrong, I think chess is a wonderful game and some people prefer it to backgammon. But after you've really invested yourself for, say, more than an hour in a game of chess and you lose, it can take its task upon you psychologically. Also, in backgammon, you can always tell yourself that the opponent had better dice, and that's why you really lost. I guess I have to confess that's probably one of my...
So it's faster moving, shorter, more immediate return, less emotional, heavy-duty abuse, if you lose.
Exactly, and probably another aspect to it, and I've noticed this, having played in chess tournaments and backgammon tournaments, the social aspect is a lot different. You're not likely to, when you're playing, when you're really involved in a game of chess, to speak with your opponent. And, whereas that's not the case in backgammon. People frequently talk, they laugh. I just find it to be more of a social event to play.
So that sounds important. This is a social activity. It's meant to be something that stimulates conversation and interaction.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you have this whole organization now, and the New Orleans Backgammon Club, and you're playing. What kind of membership do you have? What kind of people come to these events?
The membership peaked out, number-wise, around, I guess around 12, although we'd occasionally get someone visiting from out of town, someone just passing through, and they're always welcome. Backgammon tends to attract people who are very good with numbers, accountants, actuaries, mathematicians, of course, tax accountants. In fact, our strongest player is a tax accountant and a portfolio manager. And people who can do calculations, arithmetical calculations over the board tend to excel. They can calculate the probabilities of a checker being hit and sent back. It just favors the mathematically inclined, I think. Although it's not limited to that. I'm just saying that the better players tend to be mathematically.
Or at least have a sense of probability and odds of
exactly.
some kind.
Right.
So is it in some ways, poker is a whole different kind of emotional tone to it, but it has some of that sense, or some other card games.
In fact, many of a former world champion at backgammon is now a Texas Hold'em player. Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons. It's the money reasons that actually Texas Hold'em has drawn some of the better players from the top echelons of backgammon, because in Texas Hold'em tournaments there's a lot more money at stake. You can win much bigger prizes. But there's similarities between the two, and people who tend to be good at backgammon are very good at Texas Hold'em, and vice versa. Yeah, they're both games of chance. Now, where backgammon differs from that, apart from it not being a card game, one being a board game, the other one a card game, is that everything is visible for both players. Not so with Texas Hold'em. There's that element of what the other person has in his hand. I mean, you can count, I guess you can calculate possibly based on, again, upon probability what the other people have, but backgammon,
all the data in backgammon is right there in front of you.
Right there for both people. There's nothing hidden, no hidden cards. So, yeah, but they're both fascinating games. And interestingly enough, too, I've referred to chess. Some of our better backgammon players are former chess players. I think there's more of a movement in that direction than the other. I don't know of too many former backgammon players who have really taken to chess. But
I wouldn't usually think of a game like chess as involving much in the way of probabilities or calculating the odds, but
No.
there is a certain sense of being able to think ahead.
Oh, yes, yeah. Now, that's another interesting point. In chess, the really good grandmasters can think many, many moves ahead, but you can't really do that in backgammon because the branching tree, as you progress ahead in moves, it goes up exponentially. Chess does too, but the curve for backgammon is much, much steeper than that for chess. The very fact that you can, in chess, for example, you can only have one piece on a square, whereas in backgammon you can have several checkers on the same piece. So, and each roll is determined by the dice. So you've got variability built into each move, and then given that variability, what to do with each one of those moves as far as movement to the other points, as they're called, or pips in backgammon. So yeah, the looking ahead in backgammon is much
It's
tougher
harder to do. So there's that basic difference that calculating the odds in a backgammon game is right now. It's based on what's in front of you.
Yeah, and not knowing what the future rolls will be. Unlike in chess, you can see there's certain definite ways the game can go. In backgammon, you'd have to run through all the multiplicity of all the rolls it just blows up. Like I said, the branching tree just goes up much too quickly.
So this unpredictability gives it some of its stimulation that it gives to you.
Now, some people are turned off by that, actually. People who like to be in total control are probably less apt to like the free-for-all type flow.
So that could be a basic difference between a chess player and a backgammon player, right? I have my strategy, I want to develop it over the long term, or I'm going to go with the flow a bit and deal with the randomness that happens.
Yeah, it's been said that backgammon is actually more like life because you have to take whatever you've been dealt by the dice and make the best of it. Whereas in chess, you determine, and of course your blunders too determine it, but your opponent's skill and his blunders are what results in the outcome of the game. Whereas with backgammon, you've got that element of uncertainty.
So are all the people who come to your meetings, are they all master level?
Oh no, we do have some we have one who plays at world-class level. We have another man who plays probably most of the time at expert level and occasionally at world-class level. I'd say I'm more in the intermediate or advanced range. I guess another reason too, which I never touched upon, that attracts or makes backgammon a little more palatable for some people who have sensitive egos is that they can occasionally beat people who are actually much stronger than them. If I were to play a master or even an expert at chess, I wouldn't have any chance whatsoever of winning. Whereas I can beat an expert or even a world-class player at backgammon if I have particularly favorable dice. In the long run, superior skill will win out. You will have the occasional beginner or maybe intermediate level player beating a much superior player, but in the long run, that superior player's skill will win out because the dice in the long run are going to roughly even out.
So how much should I learn about the game before I try to come to one of these?
Just knowing the basic rules, not having too much, you don't have to have necessarily that much skill. Every person I can tell you at the club is more than happy to explain the game to newcomers, and even those who haven't used the cube, which I will produce right now. Incidentally, well, I guess we could get a little bit into the history of the game. This little device, the cube, was invented in around the mid-20s, I think 1925, by some person in New York who decided it would greatly add to the interest of the game if he could change the stakes.
So this is not about the playing of the game and deciding how to win, but it's about the betting that might go on this side.
Yes, but it's a crucial element of the game. It really, it's been said that someone who's really skillful at the use of the cube, if he is pitted against the person who is superior in the use of the checker play, the person who's better at the cube will actually win out. It is a skill all its own in learning how to master.
So I guess we better clarify that right away for anybody who's interested in your club or the event. How are they going to lose a lot of money doing this?
No. We and also there have been many beginners or people who have come, not necessarily beginners, who did not play with the cube. For example, those who grew up in the Middle East Middle Eastern countries, they still don't use the cube. This is primarily a Western invention. And even though they know about the cube, for example, the owner-manager of Flores still does not use the cube when he plays his friends from Iran and the Middle East. They'll still play with the cube off the board. They strictly play the game with checkers, with the checkers. And but it's really, I think, made the game very, very exciting, and it's introduced a whole different dimension to the game. The game itself has antecedents that go back to ancient Egypt and Babylon. King Tut's tomb had a version of the game of the Egyptian game. I believe it's called Senet, and it appeared to be a racing game. There's no direct nexus between these ancient games and backgammon, but from looking at the dice, for example, some of them have dice and counters, so they were probably racing games like backgammon. Iran is where...
Racing in the sense of trying to get around the board with the checkers.
Correct, whereas chess is a game of strategy where two armies battle each other. I guess you could say backgammon is a more passive game in that it's just trying to get home, just trying to beat your opponent. Although you can send the opponent back to the beginning, it's really just a race. It boils down to a very strategic race, but a race nevertheless.
And it is interesting that this is, in some version or other, a game that is literally thousands of years old.
Correct. Like I said, I think Iran is where it actually took on close to what its modern form is. It was being played in ancient Rome. In fact, in some of the backyards in Pompeii, there were backgammon boards. It was called tables back then. And the game pretty much resembled the game that we play in modern times. And then, like I said, it was believed up until fairly recently that Babylon and Egypt might have had the first precursors of the game. But recently, a board was found in ancient Iran, something like 3000 BC, that had dice and it had checkers, and so it could very well that the actual granddaddy of backgammon started in Iran. Didn't only get perfected there, but which of course our owner at Flores was more than happy to tell you about. He loves the fact that he comes from a country that actually originated the game.
Well, yeah, very deep history in ancient Persia.
Yes.
So how often does your group meet?
It meets once a week. We meet on a Wednesday night.
On Wednesday nights.
Wednesday nights at 6:30.
At 6:30.
We like to ask people coming for the first time, well, everybody actually, to get there maybe 15 minutes or so before we start. It takes, to play in a tournament is $7. And it's a single elimination. Although if we have 8 people or more, we'll have a consolation round if you lose in the first.
So the $7 that goes into a pot for winnings.
Into a pot, and it's total 100% return.
And is that for a game or for a tournament? Because I don't think we're very clear on the difference yet.
The winner of the actual tournament, which can go like three different matches. If you have 8 people that you will be involved, if you continue to progress and continue to win, you will play 3 matches to win.
So it's a kind of elimination match.
It's a single elimination. If we do have 8, then the 4 losers will go on to the consolation match. They'll win a smaller pot, but they do have a pot. So there's winning there. And in addition to that, some people like to play, well, we exchange numbers, and some people play apart from Flores, at one another's home. So there's that extra little social advantage to going to the club. You meet people who are like-minded people who like the game.
And where is it located again?
It is at the corner. It's Flores Coffee Shop at the corner of Royal Street and Franklin Avenue in the Marigny section of town. Right.
So reasonably accessible.
Yeah. If you know where Mimi's is, it's right across the street, which is a little place that it's a nice little restaurant that has music bands there that play on the weekend. Yes.
So one of the things you had mentioned to me that might be interesting is that there's a real difference in playing this game with people versus with a computer, and the whole history is a little bit different between computer software for backgammon and computer software for chess.
Right. It's been very interesting, and as processing speeds have increased and programmers have developed more and more clever software, the computers have really become a challenge to human players, even the best in the world. Back in, I think it was 2007, Garry Kasparov, the world champion chess player, lost to Deep Blue, IBM's Deep Blue, and that was quite a shock psychologically for that to happen. That was, like I said, that was in 2007. Just a few years ago, actually around the same time, backgammon programs achieves superiority, or at least equality, with the best backgammon players. But it was a different approach altogether. Chess programs were programmed with strategy being injected into the programs themselves. And that did work, but for some reason that plan didn't work with backgammon, maybe because of the sharpness of that exponential curve. But someone came up with a brilliant idea of using neural network programming, which involves having a program teach itself how to play. All he did was input the rules of the game into the computer and had itself play itself roughly 1 million times. And over time, I guess it's sort of like a high-speed form of evolution, although evolution doesn't always work toward the betterment, improvement. This thing eliminated the things it shouldn't do, learned the things it should do, and in time, it was playing backgammon equal to or superior to some of the best backgammon players in the world. And it's really remarkable. And not only is it playing as well as the best players, it has overturned some of the received wisdom of the backgammon greats of the past. In fact, if you look at some of the books written by former world champions, some of the moves they recommended have been overturned by the computer. And someone has even written a book going back and saying, hey, this person's book, and let me show you the correct
new strategies for winning backgammon.
Or the better moves. So it's really been a very interesting development. There was still, in this whole area of computer versus humans, I think it was around the same time Garry Kasparov lost, 2007, that Chinook, the checker playing program, defeated the world champion, and now it has solved the game of checkers. The most you can do against Chinook is draw. It knows the answer. And it's been speculated that in time, backgammon will be solved, but I suspect that's way down the road.
A lot of permutations.
Too many permutations.
To get there. It strikes me as interesting that for a chess player, because chess is so much about mental strategy, that playing a computer is not that different from playing another human player, right? There isn't as much social interaction, whereas, as you mentioned, a big aspect of backgammon is the social aspects of the game, which you're not going to get with the computer unless it's...
You're not going to get that. They're strictly, they're wonderful teaching tools, and they never make mistakes. So if you're going to beat them, it's because you out-strategized them, you out-thought them. Certainly the earlier ones went about winning differently, but they did what they did. You know, there's the old adage, well, the one way to kill a cat, to skin a cat, rather. And they just used brute force calculating ability, particularly in the end game, to just outthink human beings. But yeah, it's really been an interesting battle between in the realm of games between computers. And now the last stronghold fell last year, when the world champion Go player lost to AlphaGo, which defeated
the Chinese checker game.
Chinese played with little stones or glass beads. Up until then, not that long ago, the best Go programs only played at a beginner's level. And so it was startling when this computer program came along. And again, it was neural network programming to the rescue. That's what AlphaGo used, and it actually beat him like three games to one, or 3 matches to one. Really did him in pretty badly. So that was like the last stronghold, I think, in the realm of games. And I really didn't think any program would ever be developed to beat Go, but it happened.
And it's the ability of the computer to teach itself or to learn from its own failures that makes the difference with some of these.
Which I think is just remarkable, to think that this computer could teach itself how to play and play extremely well too. It just I don't know, it's mind-boggling, and it's great because they're great teaching tools. I try to play every day at least one match against. I have 3 different types of software. They all play it at world-class level. Not that you have to set them there. You can, there's gradations of playing skill from beginner all the way up to world-class level. So you don't have to get clobbered every time you play it. You can have some sense of victory by putting on a lower level. But when you play it, when you play the software, it's true, like you said, you don't have that social interaction. But after the game is over, you can go back and analyze not just the game, the entire match, game for game. It'll give you a rating for each game. It'll give you a rating for the whole match. It'll tell how your luck compared with it. So then you really have no excuse. You can no longer say, well, it had better luck than I did, because it tells you whether you had better luck than it did.
So I'd like to change the subject just a little bit, because we're actually running out of time surprisingly fast. Boards, do you have a bunch of them? Do they come in different varieties? Do people, like a chess game, you know, some people have these very elaborate chess boards.
Oh, they certainly do. The range is very, very, very large, from well under $100 all the way up to thousands of dollars. Really, the best backgammon sets you can get. It's a real craft to build a fine backgammon board, and there are very good ones available. I don't know of any place in the city that sells anyone really good, high-quality boards, but there's certainly many online where you can buy. There's several good websites where you can purchase.
Do people bring their own boards to
Yes,
Cafe Flora?
most of our players
They're not built in.
Most of our players, yeah, with no shortage of boards. We have lots of boards to use.
So what would the novice do here? The novice would probably look for your website at nolabg.org.
.org, right.
And probably learn a little bit about the rules of the game, and then maybe show up at Cafe Flora of a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday evening.
Or should they play with the computer first for a while?
That would be a good idea. I'd recommend. It'd be also good. There are many books out there, a multiplicity of good books on backgammon, and they're good books for beginners. So, yeah, it would be to their advantage to do a little brushing up on the game if they just know the basic rules. And that's all I was actually when I first started, was for the most part a beginner.
But if you want to talk and laugh while you're playing, you need to have people around and not just the computer to do that with.
Definitely, yeah.
So which is it that really hooked you in the beginning, the challenge or the social
aspect? I think, to be honest, I think it was the challenge. Once I learned, I picked up some books that gave me the basic strategies involved, and all of a sudden I felt I was pretty good. Well, it turns out I was not that good at all. But I did learn that many years ago when I was playing at Avondale, we were just pushing checkers around. We didn't really know too much about what we were doing. And maybe some would claim I'm still just pushing checkers. I'm some of the better players. But I think it's a great game. It's a very challenging game and a fun game to play.
And part of the fun is just the socializing. Will Hunn, thank you again for your interesting information on the game of backgammon. I don't know too much about it. Maybe I'll learn something.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I know I play chess a little bit. I know I'm pretty bad at
Yeah.
I know the basic rules.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how the strategy stuff escapes me. I think I would have the same problem with backgammon.
It's tough. That's another thing, by the way. If you get away from backgammon, you can go back quickly without having to learn all the opening rules and all like you would in chess. So, yeah.
Will, thank you. And thank you, audience, for participating with us. We'll see you again soon.